The necessity of euthanasia, a pro-euthanasia argumentative speech. Euthanasia is defined as the act or practice of killing or permitting the death of a hopelessly sick or injured individual, such as persons or domestic animals, in a relatively painless way for reasons of mercy. The term has been used since 1605. The said concept and its applications can be considered as a significantly controversial one due to the fact that it is related to the decision on the life of an individual. There are different points needed to be focused on and discussed in relation to the subject matter. In my opinion, euthanasia is a choice needed to be present in certain situations. It is in relation to this that I am adhering to the need for euthanasia in certain cases. To be able to shed a light on my perspective, it is important to present the different points that are being discussed regarding the said subject matter. The groups that are against euthanasia have different points and arguments. These are mainly based on two aspects, namely the ethical and legal aspects of the concept. The ethical points related to the topic of euthanasia are focused on the fact that no matter what process is used, however merciful it is done, taking or allowing a life to be taken is morally and ethically wrong. In France, the law is threading between the boundaries of active or passive euthanasia. Euthanasia and assisted suicide are considered legal, but doctors are given the choice to cease ineffective treatments for patients or for those who are only artificially living, such as those patients who are only depending on machines to breathe. This can be related to the ethical presumption that active euthanasia is different from passive euthanasia. Active euthanasia involves an act which seizes the life of a person, such as medical professionals administering lethal doses of drugs to the patient. On the other hand, passive euthanasia is the absence of or stopping any action administered to the patient that is keeping him alive, such as switching off life support machines, disconnecting a feeding tube, not carrying out a life-extending operation, or not giving life-extending drugs. Ethical views perceive that both of these types are questionable, that there is no degradation of an ethical act. According to such views, the intention is what matters, and that is killing a person or an individual. Personally, I must agree that there is really no difference between the two types. The difference lies in the process, and both can reach the goal of ending a life. The thing that is needed to be pointed out in this issue is the way the person himself feels. In relation to this, we are left to ponder on the reason why this concept even came to be and is continuously applied in different parts of the world. This is because it is also not ethical or moral to make a person suffer in a condition without cure, and that living can be equated to suffering and painful existence. Based on the definition of euthanasia, the main reason is to be able to stop the pain or suffering of an individual, which can be a person or an animal. In this case, is the reason acceptable? As a medical personnel, I believe that the choice to stop the suffering of an individual should be given. The second anti-euthanasia argument is related to the legality of the act. Euthanasia can be legally viewed as an act of killing. In the Netherlands, which is the first country to allow this in 2002, the issue caused a debate because certain groups perceive this as a right to suicide, which is illegal and charged as homicide in that country. These can be considered as the main reasons why euthanasia is only allowed in limited places around the world. Based on the report given by The Guardian, the euthanasia and assisted dying is allowed in countries such as the Netherlands, France, Switzerland, Germany, Belgium, and some states in the United States of America, namely Oregon, Washington State, Vermont, and the most recent additions are Montana and New Mexico. Based on this argument, there is a question that can be asked. Why are the numbers of places legalizing the process increasing then? Personally, the less complicated answer to that is that in the present era, the definition of living can be related to the quality of how a person's person spends everyday existence. In places wherein euthanasia had been legalized, strict sets of conditions are being considered to be able to allow a procedure of assisted suicide. In the Netherlands, the patient must be suffering unbearable pain, their illness must be incurable, and the man must be made in full consciousness by the patient. In my personal opinion, the recognition of euthanasia by the justice system can be seen as evidence that there is a need for this choice. To support this view, there are a few cases that can be cited regarding the importance of having this choice. These cases show the importance of euthanasia as a personal choice of the individuals experiencing extreme pain or other situations. In the United States, euthanasia is illegal, but medical professionals are allowed to prescribe lethal doses of medicine to terminally ill patients only in 5 states. These are the aforementioned states of Oregon, Washington State, Vermont, Montana, and New Mexico. One significant case that can be presented in support of my view is the life of Brittany Maynard. She was a 29-year-old woman who had been diagnosed with a terminal cancer and decided to move to Oregon, one of the states that allows physician-assisted death or the Death with Dignity Act. According to her, a choice like this means that she can die with the capacity to still make a decision. The terminal illness had taken a lot from her and can still take more. Being a strong woman that she is, who had spent her life being decisive and strong-willed, she wanted to end that way as well. Her main reason for being a supporter of the Death with Dignity movement is the fact that she is facing a definite death in a few months due to the rapidly growing tumor in her brain, and the process leading up or the waiting period would be debilitating and painful. In my opinion, her reasons are enough. This is what I mean when I pointed out the fact that euthanasia should be an internal decision. It should be based on the person himself. The family and other loved ones are there for support. In terms of cases when the individual cannot make a decision, the doctors and the family are given the responsibility to do so. Another case is that of Dr. Peter Goodwin, who even helped in the legislation of the law in Oregon. He pointed out that the Death with Dignity Act, which was passed in 1994, needs specific requirements, such as certification from 2 different doctors that the illness can take the life of a person in 6 months. In addition, the person should be mentally healthy and is not depressed. This requirement is an answer to the argument regarding the concept that by legalizing assisted death, there can be a misconception that suicide is also being promoted or the right to suicide. According to Dr. Goodwin, suicide is an impulsive and even violent act of ending one's own life in seclusion. On the other hand, doctor-assisted death or euthanasia involves support of the family and is done after serious consideration and after all requirements have been met. He himself had taken this route due to a terminal illness. To sum it up, ethical questions are based on the perspective of the society on what is right. It is a basic right of a person to live, yes. It is also the first ethical rule to choose life and not to kill. It is important to consider, though, that the ethical questions end where the personal need begins. If the person is in unbearable pain, can one still ask if it is right to choose euthanasia when it means stopping the pain? This is the main reason why the strict prerequisites are there. This means that when the only way to stop one's pain is to choose euthanasia, then is it not humane to do that? In conclusion, the ethical and the legal aspects work hand in hand, but in the end, it is still important that the person himself is given a choice. Euthanasia, doctor-assisted death, a do not resuscitate order request, or a request not to be attached to life-extending machines are included in the examples of the processes decided by a person himself. On a personal perspective, I do not think that a person should choose pain just because the society dictates that it is the ethical thing to do. Let us consider the fact that there are important and strict requirements before one can avail of this procedure. It is, in my opinion, that the evidence that ethical laws are being seriously considered and even respected. In addition, the fact that it is legal in certain states and countries mean that being humane goes beyond the ethical bounds. This means that the society and even the government are being given a choice by the people beyond what ethics can offer. It is my strong opinion that since I am a human being with free will and the capacity for critical thinking, it is important that the choice is there when I need it or when my loved ones need it.